I came here to heal, I came here to grow. Lesson in love, they helped me let go. I chose this path, I chose this time. Everything I need, I hold inside. I came here to heal, I came here to grow. Lesson in love, they helped me let go. I chose this path, I chose this time. Everything I need, I hold inside. Welcome and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Me, the Art of Starting Again, with me, Tisha Michelle, your host. All right, so today's episode is going to be a little different. I felt it was time to reintroduce myself or introduce myself to you guys. Some of you have been rocking with me since 2019. Hey guys. And some of you are new to me. So, and if you are someone that's been rocking with me for a while, then you've definitely heard parts of my journey. I would sprinkle little pieces, here and there into episodes. But, honestly, even then, I wasn't really fully sharing my story. I had a client that turned friend that said to me one day, she was like, you know what? I feel like I know you, but I don't really know you. She was like, dang, I don't even know if you have a boo. And I started laughing and she was like, yeah, because I feel like I know you, but I actually really like don't. And I was like, it was designed like that. And she's like, oh, the design. I say, yeah, you keep people at a distance, but still make them feel, close enough. And it's nothing against the person. It's just a lot of it is really one, I'm in this space of like just serving other people that I'm not really thinking about sharing much of me. I'll sprinkle some things in and say this is where this is coming from because experience is the greatest teacher. So it's really just more like thinking about like you guys and wanting to put it into that aspect too. And then on the other flip side, I've always been that one to be like, I ain't sharing my business. I don't want people all up in my business and then trying to like use that against me or something. Like what? So it's a mixture of some things. And while I do actually sprinkle things in and talk about it, I just felt that I would just come on here today and actually like just take you from early life, up until now. Now, I won't there's a lot that I won't be sharing just because we'll be here forever. And I don't know, maybe I'll put it in the book. Maybe there'll be a book before I physically leave this earth. There'll be what is that? A memoir? Yeah, I don't know, because sometimes I feel like my life was definitely like a movie. But okay, so anyhow, a lot of you may be brand new. And either way, I think it's important that you actually know who it is that you're listening to, who's on the other side of the mic. So today, I just want to tell you a little bit about Tisha. Right. So, and like, again, not everything, because like I said, that will take forever, but enough so that you understand the woman behind the words, the voice behind the podcast, and the life experience that shaped who I am and why I'm actually here, like in your space. So, if we start at the beginning, I'm an only child. Yep. Was raised with a bunch of boy cousins and just, one, two female cousins, but mainly around my boy cousins. I was raised for a good part by my grandmother, who was just my grandmother was so dope. My grandmother is so dope. Like, so she was born in the Cayman Islands and then left from Cayman to New York. And yeah, and that's where I was actually born. I was born in New York. But anyway, okay. So let me reel it back in. I was about to start telling a whole other story and you guys are going to be like, "What? Can we finish that part first?" All right. So my mom was on drugs. So that's why I lived with my grandmother. And my dad, I did not know my dad until I met him at 14 and he died at 16 and he died from complications of HIV due to him having a drug addiction and shooting up in dirty needles. So when my mom got pregnant at 16, the first time having sex, she got pregnant. Like, isn't that wild behavior? Um, but from the stories and stuff that I've heard from family members and stuff, my dad didn't want anything to do with my mom or me, and you'd be like, oh, that sucks, but when I think about it now in the space that I'm in, it was actually really truly a blessing, because had my mom stayed with him, she might have contracted it as well, you know. So she definitely was on drugs, and she made a decision one day to leave New York and go to Virginia, because at this point we had moved to Virginia, and get off drugs. I mean, she didn't go into no rehab. It wasn't any of that. She just made a decision for whatever her decision was or whatever it happened. She just made the decision to get off drugs, and she did. And I think that's so dope, like, for because I've seen like what addiction does to people. I Whether it's that somehow, or even just when you see on TV and hear the stories and stuff, like a lot of them don't make it back. They don't make it back from that illness and that addiction, right? And she did. So I think that's dope. For a while I never actually told people what my dad died from. I was embarrassed because I don't even know why I was actually like embarrassed myself. Like it wasn't me. I don't have that, or I didn't do that. But it was just like, and I guess too that stigma behind it and all of that. But it wasn't until probably like the past 4 or 5 years ago where I actually started saying what it was and not having it have like the power over me. I took my power back, and even just far as educating myself and having a level of like compassion and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, it's a part of my story, but it's not my story. And I could only imagine at that. So when my dad died, he was 35, y'all. Like, isn't that crazy? 35 years old. Like, I've already exceeded the amount of years that he was on this earth. So so yeah, okay. So like I said, my mom got pregnant at 16, and then I got pregnant at 16. And I was like, wait a minute, here's a pattern. What is happening? So, I was pregnant at 16 and had my daughter at 17. And I was like, yo, we're not going to make this a generational thing. Now, even being that young, I didn't have obviously as much experience and wisdom as I have now, but there was still something in me that was just like, I don't want this for my child. Right. So I was like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. So now I didn't go through and do things to make sure that that didn't happen. It was just something I declared. And it's like when you declare something, yeah, everything's going to move around through that. So I've gotten through 3 kids already, and I have one more. He's about to be 15. So we get past that 16 mark, but he ain't out there anyway. So I'm not worried. I'm definitely not worried about that. But yeah, so pregnant at 16, first kid at 17, married my high school sweetheart. Um, Married him, went into the military at 21. So yeah, I got pregnant 16, yeah. Had the one at 17, second child at 19, got married, after that, and then went into the military. So picture this, y'all. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm government property all at the same time. And through it all, I just kept hustling. And I found myself like, I really didn't like working, but it wasn't like, I don't want to work. Well, let me correct this. It wasn't that I didn't want to work like I could work. It was like I didn't want to work for other people, but I also wasn't in the mindset to actively like say, oh my gosh, I want to be an entrepreneur. But I always had that grit and that hustle in me. Like from being in middle school, selling blow pops with my cousins. Like what? Getting my aunt to buy to buy them from Toys R Us. When we had Toys R Us, buy it from Toys R Us, and then we taking them in middle school and selling blow pops. Like, hello, entrepreneur in the making. But most of my jobs that I had back then were in like call centers. So it was just customer service, whether it was for a credit card company or whether I was working for Medicaid, like the state of Nevada. We had that contract. So I was like in the call center, and it was like, oh, is there anything else better for me? Like, but when I fast forward and now, and I'm looking back, I didn't realize I was actually building real skills, communication, resilience, learning how to deal with every type of personality. And those are skills that I didn't know was going to serve me later as an entrepreneur, even being in the military, right? Yeah, your girl was in the military. I was a 92 Yankee, which is supply specialist slash armor. So I was in charge of all of the supplies, anything from toilet paper to vehicles, everything, and I was at a signal unit. So, communications. and all. Then I was also the armor, so I learned a lot about guns, right? But it wasn't like little nines and stuff, because it was, M4s and M16s, right? Because that's where the majority like was. But going through training, learning how to take a nine like apart and put it back in, in a few seconds, and all this crazy stuff. Right? So I'm going to the military, and I'm the one who throughout high school and stuff was wearing all the designer clothes, cuz remember, like 14 to 16, those 2 years, like my dad was in my life, and he wanted to give me everything, and that's what it was. And my dad is the one with the entrepreneur stuff. My mom will tell you in a heartbeat she get that from her dad. He was the hustler, like true hustler, from everything that they told me. His nickname was Dollar Bill. And so he had a store in New York, and had, you know, clothes and stuff like that, and t-shirts and all those things. So he's always sending me the stuff, right? So I'm in high school in Virginia, and I'm rocking, the Donna Karen crop top with the Donna Karen jean skirts and some Jordans. You know what I'm saying? Like that was me. Or the Columbia rain suits. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, the Columbia rain suit. I had a purple one, and I will rock it with my Tims. What? And my hair stayed honey blonde and done. You couldn't tell me nothing. All types of jewelry and nameplates and all this stuff that I'm getting, right? So, I'm just like in that space, like just that vibe in space. And then my aunt talks to me about the military, and she always wanted to go into the Navy, and she was telling me about the different benefits and stuff. So I started looking into that, right? Because now it's a little different, right? I got whole ass kids. You're running through high school and you being, doing all of that, but now I actually have a kid. I'm 17 with a daughter. And so I start thinking differently and all. And I've always been mature, very mature for my age, right? And let other people tell that. But I stayed with the Air Max, any type of Air Max that was out, just like all of that. But it's like something shifted, and I'm like a mom now, right? Everything's to this kid, and then then I have another kid. So anyway, so thinking about the military, so I go and I get all the info. I don't want to go to the Marines, because they have wild behavior. It's too tough. Don't want to do the Navy because I ain't trying to be seasick and stuff. That's just crazy. Don't want to do the Air Force because I heard it was very easy in the Air Force. So I picked the Army. Now, the significance of that easy part, right? They actually said the Air Force, the quality of life is way better. So if I could go back, I would have actually went to the Air Force. But even at that young age, different things, and said, like, I'm just giving you some of this stuff, but there's some things that I don't know. Maybe at some point in my life, like I said, if I write a book and stuff, I'll actually open up about that. I just know right now is not the time for that. But like, so going through different things in my life at an early age, if you, that's why I chose harder. But I wasn't gonna go to the extreme for, like, the Marines. So I'm gonna say I wasn't gonna do the Marines because that just wasn't even an option for me. But instead of going the easier route where they said the quality of life was better, I still was like, no, that's too easy. I need something harder. Right. So I'm still choosing. It's already ingrained into me, right? So I'm choosing that hard. So anyway, so I get there, and or people that knew me was like, I can't believe you're going to the military. Like, not you wanting to have her hair done every 2 days and it's prissy and da da da. And I'm like, whatever. I love a challenge, right? So I'm in there, and it's just like, what is happening? So anyway, so I chose the military. It's, thinking it was gonna be a better way. I actually don't think that it well, I liked all the training, and I learned to deal with a lot of different people and a lot of different personalities. And I love that for me, which definitely helped, being an entrepreneur, and just not even just the entrepreneur part, but going into the space of like healing and working and connecting with people. I've talked to so many different people from so many different walks of life that literally mimicked when I went to boot camp. When I did those 9 weeks of training and then the school training and stuff, I met people from all over the world. And I always jokingly and but being serious say, if I would have stayed in touch with everybody that I met and really connected with through like my training and then being stationed, I would know somebody in every single state in a couple of countries. Because quite a few of them got sent. well, chose to go overseas. And so it opened me up to a world of different people. So in the midst of it, it was like, ugh. But when I'm out of it, I'm like, oh, I get that. And it was a great experience. It just wasn't a long-term experience for me at all. So anyhow, so um grew up with this hustle mentality, got to figure it out, but I also got kids at a young age. So I got to work and I got to fill it, figure things out. And now they say that everybody should have like seven, or millionaires or billionaires have seven streams of income, mainly, passive, right? And I didn't know anything about that back then, but I had a lot of different ways I was bringing in money. And I love me a good, direct sales company. And I might just be making $300 from that. But hey, that's paying this bill. That was a lot, then. So I can't believe I'm in a position to say that was a lot back then. My goodness, aging myself. But anyway, so yeah. So, I'm having these different, hustles. Like it could be $300 can come from here, 1,000 from here. I got my job, and I'm just always just keeping this figure it out, because like your back is against the wall. What you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna eat or be eaten, and literally that's how I just raised myself in that sense. So so I'm working customer service jobs. This is after the before this is before the military. And then when I'm out of the military, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Oh, customer service, right? It's always this customer service, being of service and stuff, right? Like, what is that? Nah, that's the skills that have been serving me now as this entrepreneur, right? So, okay, I told you a little bit about the younger part. There's a lot of different things that happen, like in between. I go to the military, it's supposed to be the best thing ever. um Again, only that I'm removed from it, I see that. um but I ended up getting a divorce. I definitely It's not the military, but it's just, it was a lot of the mentality of people around certain people that he allowed to get um into his head, right? And about, oh, she's better than you, or she thinks she's better than you. And I've never been that person to be like, I'm better than this person, or they're better than me. It was neither of it. Everybody has their own story and their journey and stuff. But I went into the military to do better for my family, because like these different benefits and all these different things and stuff. So it really hurt me in the sense that anybody would think that I am better than them, and I'm just doing this for the betterment of like the family. But that contributed to some of like the trauma, and some of the things where it's like, oh, well, if I go to do something good, it's going to make other people feel a certain way. And I don't want to make other people feel a certain way, so that I'm not going to evolve. And I don't know this at that time, of course, because I'm not fully like consciously awakened to all of this, right? So this comes from the years, past, and I see that, and it's like, oh, and this is why I dimmed my light, like they say, and where some of those things, you know, um, came from. So out there, get a divorce. That comes with its own, struggle, single mom. Um, but I'm there for the kids, and subconsciously I'm like, I want to be a whole different parent than my parents were. So I'm involved in everything. Everything. I'm room mom for these kids. I'm like, y'all better be telling a good story when I hear y'all on a podcast talking about your childhood. Nah. But yeah, so it was like my kids, we grew up together. And that's why I'm so close with my kids, and like really close with my oldest. Like my oldest would be like, my mom's my best friend, even though she got a bunch of other best friends too. But I was like, because we grew up together. I was 17. I was a kid with a kid. Like, oh, wild behavior. So anyway, so like I said, I'm working different jobs and customer service. And but then if I didn't like a job, I just left it. I'm like, this is dumb. I'm not dealing with this. Even though I got kids and bills to pay, I'm like, I'm just done. But I always was able to get a job. Wasn't able to not get a job. And I didn't realize what I was doing was I was seeking. I always wanted to be an attorney, but I was like, I didn't want to go to school because that was going to take too long. And that family attorney was like, the time got to pass anyway. I was like, dang, that's deep. But I still didn't do it. But I did go to school and I got my paralegal. I got my associates at the time. So I got my associates in applied science and paralegal law, which means I can be the paralegal for an attorney. Um, and that took me forever to get because I kept starting and stopping and starting and stopping because I'm also working a job and raising kids and then trying to go to school, right? And it wasn't like how it is now, all the options of online and all this stuff, right? So I'm in person going at nighttime 4 times a week, right? So yeah, so there's that, but I never do anything with it. I did go to volunteer with at a law firm, and I wanted to, like I said, I don't need to learn how to fax and file because at this point I have a, even though I'm young, I have a lot of experience working in actual like jobs, and I know how to Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and I know how to fax, and I know how to, I wanted to, what's the good thing? Show me how to brief a client. Like, let's talk about that. Tell me how to type up a divorce. And they were just using me for silly stuff that I had already mastered. So I was like, yep, can't do that. I can't afford that. I gotta like work, in this sense. So I really didn't do anything with that. And then I get at this one, I'm a leasing consultant. Man, y'all, if I really tell y'all all this stuff, it's crazy. Like I was a leasing consultant for apartment complex, which shout out to that because that's how I ended up with my youngest son. So met his dad there. But anyway, but I'm like killing the game, like renting, and my commission is crazy because I'm renting apartments left and right, left and right. Then that transitions and all. So anyway, so I end up at this company, and it was a pretty big company. I loved it. I said, I made decent money for back then. I made decent money. Definitely could have made more, but I loved it. And I loved the environment. I loved what I did. And I was like, I'm never gonna leave this job. And like a couple days later, they was like, yes, the fuck you are. Because you're getting laid off. Well, they were closing that office down, and it was only the manager and one of me and one other person. So they was like, yeah, here's your 2 weeks check. You're cool. And I'm like devastated. Like, wait, what just happened? First of all, my world is shattered because I said I was never leaving here. Now you just forced me to leave. And then two, like, what am I gonna do now? Right. So I remember going to look for some assistance and taking like my layoff letter, and they denied me. They told me that I couldn't get. Now here I am. I had only had assistance for a short period of time. It was like 17 years old, and I got like WIC, right? And and then I've just been working. I just been working then, so I wasn't getting no assistance. And I go to get assistance, and they deny me because they said I made a few dollars more because at this point I'm out of the military and I do get disability from the military, and it wasn't even that much. And but that was over a few days, and I was like, wow. And I was like, you know what? Never again. I'm never going to be at the mercy of someone. And I literally said, I was like, I'm never going to be at the mercy of someone else. And I was like, I don't want someone being able to take this from me. And then I go to get some type of assistance for someone who always worked full time and had hustles. And you're telling me, sorry, what? This is wild. So I was always in some type of direct network marketing, direct sales company. And this one company that I was in, one of the people there went and got licensed to sell insurance, like life insurance. So they were telling the other one. So I was like, bet I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this too. And I remember studying for it. Like I would literally go to the bus stop in the car, like, and wait for the kids, and I would get there a little bit early. And while I'm in the car, I'm studying. When I get to a red light, I'm studying. Like I'm studying. I had already scheduled to take the test, like not even a week after I got the materials, and I registered for it, paid for it. It was like, so failing it is not an option because I'm not going to sit and do this again. And I also don't want to waste no money because money is tight. Past that, so now I got, my license to, sell insurance. And then I've done other things, after that, where I was working in like mortgages as a loan officer. Um, yeah, right. And then I decide, and this is the crossroads that if you're a listener before, you've heard me talk about that. You get to kind of like the fork in the road, right? Well, I was at that. I was like yearning for something, and I was like, I think I want to go to school to be a nurse because I had already started to go to school for LPN, drop because of schedule, because all like that. And I was like, I want to be an RN. And I was like, you know what? Before I decide to go all the way and see if I want to do this, let me what can I get in? And I seen, oh, you could be a PCA, which is a personal care aide, and you work with the elderly. Now, fun fact, I had always been afraid to die, to get old and die. And then I go to work into a field where all you around is elderly people that are getting old and dying. Yeah. I was like, God, you're funny. But in typical Tisha fashion, oh, you want to know something? You got to have firsthand experience, because you listening to anybody else doesn't do it for you. So go get this experience. You're afraid of this? I'm going to push you towards this, right? So I'm at a crossroads because it's two things that I want to do. I want to go and pay to get my PCA certificate and take the class, or take the class to be a private investigator, because I wanted to do that too, right? This all goes into the law thing. And I'm like, I don't know which one I want to do. I mean, I want to do them both, but I can't do them both right now because I can only pick one. I can only pay for one. So I went with whoever had the class the soonest, and it was the PCA. So my life, that trajectory changed that route. Now let's pause for a little tiny bit and let's go back before that. So I'm out of the military, and I'm out of the military, and I want to say within a year or so. Don't be googling dates and nothing, y'all. Because I'm wrong. I want to say is when I then was divorced. So at the between that period, those periods, I was modeling. I was doing a little acting, like, in a music video, not that type of like video vixen, but then I was doing hair models, like getting my hair, letting them style and cut my hair so it could go in like, hair magazines, and for what is it, like perms or whatever, like those, like it was being submitted for those things. Did like extras in it, was auditioning for like local movies, played a part in that, had a whole red carpet and stuff. Then I was in a group. Y'all, I was in a group. It was me and my girl Pumpkin. And our group was called Divinity. And it's so funny because what was we talking about Divinity? Like, yo, this stuff has always been in me, y'all. Like all right. I'm geeking because I'm going down memory lane with you guys. This is so cool. So anyway, so we have this group, but we're Divinity. We take like our album, our CD, like picture. We're at the playground, like these innocent girls, but we're rapping and all types of crazy stuff is coming out of our mouth. What? And we're called Divinity. My cousin was a ghostwriter for us, so he used to write in this stuff. I was still very like shy, and I tell people it wasn't that now that I see it, wasn't that I was shy. I was just really trying to find my voice, right? And here it is 20 something years later, like I'm really just now leaning and owning my voice. Guess I needed a lot of character development, right? Going all the way through. So then I started writing my own music. And I was like dabbling in and writing my own music, and it was definitely like that lo-fi, then mixed with like um definitely R&B, but more of like that affirmation, type of music. So I didn't know what it was. I was just kind of writing things like I felt and stuff. And so I was in there. And then I used to sketch, I would draw, and I would sketch like clothes on like bodies, because I wanted to start my own clothing line, and I was going to call it Seven. And then in 2000, I remember going to the and right now these dates are jumping back and forth, guys. All right, it's not all the way in chronological, just telling you this stuff. But anyway, I went into this to the mall, and I went into the store, and I seen these Seven jeans, these new Seven jeans. I was like, yo, they stole my ID. My idea. I called my cousin because she's the only one that knew, and I was like, did you tell somebody the idea of the name? She's like, no. I was like, I see them in the store. What? So I was discouraged. And then, like I said, I wanted to start the clothing line, and I said I was going to re-enlist to go to Germany and get popping over there and come over there. But between the military and then finding out beforehand, it was just like, something else that just kind of like died out. Well, when I was in doing the music and the stuff with my friend Pumpkin and our group, we ended up, it was like local, there was no podcast. And this is the funniest thing when I think about all this stuff. I was like, yo, I was so ahead of the time. I just never kept up with it. But there was no podcast, and there would be like the local TV stations, and it would be like one of those odd stations where you only had but so many channels anyway, even when you started having like cable, but it was the local television. Well, you could go and get a spot with them. And we had got a spot and we called it From Dreams to Reality. And what we would do is we would interview people who took their dream and made it a reality. What? What? Sound a little familiar? Right? And so we were just interviewing. It was people, it was local people, and it was, people who had stores, people who were doing their music, they had clothes, they were writing books. And when I think about it now, I'm like, man, I was around a lot of people that was already in that vibe then. So it's so cool. So I was still the quieter one on there again, trying to find my voice, but this is what we were doing. So before podcast, I was had a local show. It's wild. Yeah. So okay. So then we fast forward. Um, well, we talk about I talked about the clothing line, but then that came up again. That was one of the big things. These are the things that I wanted to do in my life from younger. I wanted to open up a group home for pregnant teens, and it's probably because I was a pregnant teen. And I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to start my own fashion line. And I also wanted to babysit because of the Babysitters Club. Ladies, I know y'all used to watch that, and I know y'all watched it when they put it on Netflix, the newer version. um but anyway, so those are the things like I wanted to do. So okay, so we fast forward. I can't become a private eye because I can only choose one class, and that one wasn't going to be for a while, so I went the other way. I'm working with the elderly, and it's nice and it's cool, but I'm sad. Looking at people who don't have family and stuff, and it was just making me feel a certain way. So I was like, I don't know if I want to stay in this industry. And then boom, I go and I get a job as a care coordinator. So I stopped being the PCA, and I go get a job as a care coordinator for a home care agency. And that's where I got to utilize a lot of things that I was learning throughout my life and through different jobs, because here I am, the care coordinator. I am in charge of all the caregivers. And this is a big company. At that time was around like 20 years or 20 something years. It's been way more. And I'm in charge of the caregivers. But the cool thing is I have that experience because I was a caregiver. So I have that compassion and that understanding with them. And but I'm also the one to hire and fire. I'm also the one to match the caregivers with the families to see based off of the information that was given to me and put them right there. So I get to utilize a lot of skills and stuff in there. And then that was there's an episode where I actually talk about this again, where I go, I think, a little more into the deep into it. But anyway, I give them an idea about starting adding another stream of income, a school, to the agency, but they said it wasn't a good idea. So I was like, screw them. You can't tell me that what I said. Like, I know my word. This is a good idea. So I was like, I'm gonna do it myself. So that was actually a blessing, even though I was fueled by like upsetting or whatever. That was actually a blessing that they said no, because that was for me, right? I was giving this to someone else. And so anyway, so I start the school, but I realized I'm paying the nurse a lot of money. I'm like, I'm not really making money with this. And I was like, what can I do myself? And I was like, it pops in my head and it says, get your CPR and first aid. Um, but so you can teach and offer the classes. Now, all these things are happening like one by one. Oh, do this, do this. I hear this, I hear that. But I wasn't consciously awakened like I am now, where I can say like, oh, I got a download, I got this and that. But the whole time I was getting downloads, right? And I'm a risk taker. Just do it. So I get that and I'm like, okay, well, I gotta market myself. But then something was like, oh, ask the daycare that your son is at. They said yes. The person that was doing it passed away. We need someone. I'm like, I don't have my kit yet. They were like, it's okay. We don't have any space to this time anyway. So they were the first ones. My first thing was pretty big. It was a daycare center and it was all the employees, but they did it in 2 shifts. And then something was like, teach some, start teaching, what is it, mindfulness to the little kids. So I pitched it to the daycare, and then she was like, yeah, she's like, do you do this for adults? And I'm like, I do now. Right. So so I start all these little, I'm sharing this part because it's like all these little things were dropping, and instead of me overthinking at that time, I went with it. And then they said, I was like, man, this is wild. I'm passing up on being able to, do make this. I was making good money. I was making like $750 a day if I do a class for the CPR and first aid. So then I told my company I was gonna, I was leaving, and then I dropped down to part time. And there was something that it was Tabitha Brown. It was going all around, and they were saying that because she said something about for entrepreneurs, like you need to like get a job or keep a job. I didn't actually listen to it, so I don't want to quote. I just seen all the stuff that was going around, like why would she say that, da, da, da. I agree. It all well, let me back up. It depends on you as an individual and how you are. If you are the type of person that's just like, yo, there ain't no other option. It's just this, and that's how serious I'm about, and I need to put everything into it because I can't be scattered, and it's not going to happen. Then do your thing. Do your thing. You got to know how you move and how you operate. But when I think back to it, I had a job. I was working as a care coordinator, and I started my business, which was the piece, the school. But I wasn't teaching the class. My nurse was teaching the class, right? I was just doing all the marketing of it and all of that sort. And then when I did CPR and first aid, I then said, hey, if I go and teach this one class, I'm actually making $750 in one day. The math is not mathing that I got to tell these people I can't do it because they want it done like the classes during the day, not at night. They want the day. So I'm turning these people down that are reaching out to me. I said, something got to give, and it got to be this job. But they wanted to keep me really bad. They was like, well, how about we just drop down to part time and you make the schedule? Wait, what? So I did that. On part time, I make the schedule. I can do the other, but I still have some more income coming in until enough was enough, and I stopped, right? And then, so side note, if you are newly or looking to start a business and you do have a job, I would, advise us to know yourself and how you think that you're going to be in it. Can you do the two? Like, is it longer? Or you need to like play, just really know yourself. But if you are able to, keep the job and let that job continue to pay your bills, so that way you don't have all that pressure on you with the business. Like, I got to make money, I got to make money because I got to pay my bills. I've been there way too much, where it's like, oh, and you kind of start spinning, and it's not a good way. So if you have a way to keep your job and yes, still start your business. I think everybody should start a business, even if it's just a side hustle. But yeah, so there's that. Then the home care part falls in, and now your girl has a whole ass home care agency and a school. So the ladies are coming through and they're getting certified, and then depending on you know who they are and what we thought and stuff, we put them on to the home with our client that rather age in place instead of a facility. And now I'm getting famous people, well, like local. There was one who was a food blogger who was very, very well known, food blogger in Virginia. And I had this one client who was a quadriplegic, and he's a best-selling author, went around the world speaking and sharing the stories and stuff, and I got to know them. And it's just this girl who oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I also dropped out of high school, got my GED. Forgot that part. So I'm like, there's this girl who doesn't, she dropped out of high school, she got her GED. I mean, she did go to college, she has her associates, but who still didn't think that that was great because it wasn't like a master's and all. But I'm like, and I have a business? What is happening right now? Right? So I have this business and I'm doing everything. I'm doing every role except for being the caregiver, because I had caregivers, but I'm doing the running the business, doing the hiring, doing the firing, going to meet the clients, the caregivers, doing payroll, having to learn about workman's comp and insurance and all of this stuff, right? And I'm busy and I got all types of people calling and connecting and all of this stuff, like just like super fast. I was like, what is happening? This is cool, right? So I'm in this and I'm getting burnt out. And then finally towards like the last year, I bring in people to like, I start hiring people. And I'm like, man, I should have been did this. But at the same time, I never ran a company before. I did direct sales, networking stuff. Like, hey, you want to buy my ship? You want to be under my team? Cool. But I wasn't. running a business. I had a real business. I had a location. I had a small location. It was 300 square feet at first. Then I outgrew that because now we got the home care. So I rented a house that was in a neighborhood that they were businesses. So it was a 3-bedroom house, and we turned it into the office. So I'm running this. I'm running payroll. I have 60 to $70,000 of revenue rolling through the bank account every month. Like, what? Who am I? What am I doing? What am I doing? So I'm at this now. I'm at another crossroads where I'm like, I'm a fraud because I don't know how to run a business. Go and buy a book, Business for Dummies. But I was itching and I was saying I should take a class. I should go to school. Then I was like, oh my god, it took me forever for the other. I don't want to go back like to school. But again, it wasn't like Udemy and Coursera, all those things that we have the access to now. And if we did, maybe it was just starting. I just didn't know. But I'm like, yeah. So I'm gonna go get a book, and I'm doing that, and I'm burnt out. And then we did hire people, and we was getting to the point that I had to turn down families that I couldn't provide care for because I didn't want to just put a body there. I had to know these caregivers. I definitely would have liked that they came from my school, because we got to a point we were growing so much that I didn't these we was having to get people outside of like the school, right? So I would have to tell them, and I was like, I will close these doors down before I just put anybody over there. If anybody I got in these cases, I would they need to be like my grandmother. They could watch my grandmother. Like I'd have to like trust and be in that. So, I grew fast, but not as fast as, it could have been if I was just to put anybody on a case. But that's just never had, that was never me. So anyway, so now I'm burnt out. It's a lot trying to handle all of this stuff, and then boom, my best friend dies. So I had already been contemplating selling it, but then I'm like, no, I should just keep it, start the process. I should just keep it. My best friend dies and everything changes. Everything changes, right? So she dies. I'm questioning life. I'm like, this is just doesn't make any sense right now. You can just go to sleep and just wake up and your age and little kids and stuff. So I'm like, I don't get this. I'm like, there has to be more to life than this, because if this is it, I don't want to be here. I was not suicidal. I have to make sure people know I was not suicidal. I was just questioning my existence in this world, because I'm like, what are we working for? Like, and when I say like working, not just like your job, like what are we here for? What's the goal? What's the end goal? Because if it's that means that at any given time you can just go to sleep and not wake up, that doesn't make any sense to me, because in my mind, I was like, oh, you get old, right? You get old and then you die. And then let's fast forward. I mean, rewind to what I said. Like that was like thing. I was always afraid of getting old because it led to death. And when you don't have a meaning of life, like what's the meaning of life, or what's your purpose, or what do you desire? What would you like to experience? If you're just going through the motions of just going to work, raising your kids if you got them, um, paying bills, stressing, struggling, maybe take a vacation, maybe not, and you just keep doing this until you get old and die. That's I don't think I like that story. I don't think I like that story, and I want a new story. And I asked that question, and then everything just started changing. Like my life just started, you know, just opening up, and I was on a spiritual awakening. I sold the business with no plan, didn't know what to do, didn't even never had that much amount of money in my life. So you can imagine how that was. And I'm missing my best friend, right? Like through just all of this stuff. And then I go to Egypt and had a great experience in Egypt. And then from Egypt, my gifts start coming through. I'm starting to see a lot with numbers and learning numerology, dabbing in it a little bit. And then the intuitiveness comes to the front, and I start pulling cards for people. Everybody loves the cards. They're like, when you gonna start doing cards again and stuff? But but I might throw that in on my um on my site, maybe like a 2 card pull or something. Okay, let me bring it back. So I'm doing readings, I'm pulling cards. I start teaching workshops about journaling and meditation. I'm getting certified to be a certified professional hypnotist. So like my thirst for human behavior, because I always was like, why did somebody do that? Right. I start taking that and then I'm bridging and connecting it with the spiritual aspect. So there's a hypnosis sessions, guiding people to creating like real actual change. I'm working with people and they're on their spiritual journey and working through their traumas and them being able to pull their power back. Um, and that I have my shirt line too that comes. Now I'm like, oh, I'm revisiting something from, many, many years, many, many years then. So I did like I said, I did hypnosis, started certifying people to go out and train. Um, I mean, yeah, other people who want to offer these hypnosis classes. And then your girl starts doing retreats internationally and here. And so I start doing, retreats. I actually started my own network that has been since paused. And it was on like the Roku, like how you get like Hulu and Netflix, mine was on, Roku. So it's in millions and millions and millions of people's devices and stuff. Um, we're going to circle back to that though. And then, what else? But I always just kind of just like look back and was just like, this isn't like my first round of like creative dreams, because in my 20s, like I said, I was modeling, acting, making music, writing books. I don't even know, I told you I wrote an ebook way, 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 way back. It was called The Messy Parents Guide. And then I just think about everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, so many things was ready to like pop and to come out of me, and things that I started, but I didn't. I almost feel like I stopped right before it was about to take off. So then it be transitioned into, something else. So if you have an idea or you feel this calling to do it. Trust what you're getting. You don't have to look at that thing and saying, yeah, but I don't have the time. Well, you do, you can. Doesn't mean you have to make that the thing. It just means I'm gonna go over here and just dabble in this or start this, or maybe you're feeling called to go back to school. Okay. And you're like, yeah, but what would I go? Just go look up a school and look at the courses and just start looking on the website and just noticing how you feel around certain things. Like, just notice what that feels like and take the breadcrumbs. So, all right. And I know there's a lot that I left out. I'm actually probably told a little bit more, but I was going down memory lane and it felt great. So, yeah, you got that. Um, so here we are today. I'm still learning and I'm still rebuilding. I'm still reinventing. And I wanted to really share this with you because I don't want you to ever feel like you're behind or like you missed your chance. I want you to look, because if you've been listening to me for a while, we've already connected. My life is proof that you can pivot 1,000 times. You could fall down, you could start again and still move forward. So a lot of the things that it'd be like, oh, well, that's like little, like, why did you say, what was even the, some people, what was even the point of putting that in there or saying it? I think it's important to actually share some of those things to show how many times I pivoted or I reinvented or I had to rebuild. So, and you can keep doing, as long as you have breath in your body, man, you keep going. And I've always been the person that people confided in. I've always been the one who others feel safe sharing like their private insecurities or their worries, their trauma. Um, and I now know that's a gift. But the truth is like, I'm not above anybody. Like, I'm just like you. I'm figuring it out. It's my first time here. I'm figuring it out as I go. I'm learning to trust myself more deeply. Um, I'm finding my voice along the way. So all those years, it was just like, am I shy? Am I buying into this identity? I'm really trying to like discover my voice, and my voice is still evolving now. I'm definitely just leaned a lot more like um into it. Oh, I didn't even say after that. I forgot. I did real estate. You know what? I probably didn't even say anything about real estate because real estate is my biggest challenge right now. And this is like, oh, okay, here's some more obstacles, but these are obstacles for growth. So I'll be able to get through it. But that's probably why I left it out. So we'll do that as a part two when I got more to say. I've completely overcome whatever it is, and reach certain goals and, and stuff. But yeah, so I used to be the shy girl, that people used to think that was stuck up because I didn't talk much and I was just observing, but the truth was, like I said, I was trying to find my voice, and I still am. And every single time I hit record on this podcast is another step in my journey. Not only my journey of just life, but my journey of my voice, and like what's going to come out, like what's going to come out next. So yeah, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this with me. I don't have all the answers, but I do have experience in stories and downloads and the lessons and the scars and the breakthroughs and the what's it called? The broken heart. But what I want you to take away from this today is that every time we rebuild, we're not starting from scratch. Like, we're starting from experience, we're starting from a spark, we're starting from resources, connections. And that's exactly what, I want this podcast to really be about. And it's the art of starting again. And my starting again can look different from your starting again. And that's okay. You may be on one path, and this reinvention and rebuilding could be something completely the opposite. And that is okay. Contrary to what family and society it says, like, stick with one thing and you got to do this, and you should just do that. But like, wait a minute. The earth is our playground. We can experience so much. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying that about moving and out of the country. So one of them is like, it's like, yeah, I just don't know, but where would I move? And I said, that's the beautiful thing. You can go anywhere. Right? It's like you can go anywhere. And doesn't that feel good? Like, you guys, just take a moment and just think about that. You can move to anywhere. And don't and this is when we're not in the space of like, but what if my job's not there, or I can't get a job, and I don't have the money to move, or I lived here, what am I gonna family gonna think? We go none of that. We silencing all of that for this moment. And think about it. We can move anywhere. And that is beautiful. And to me, that also represents rebuilding. You're not stuck in one thing or whatever environment, whatever. You're not. You can go anywhere. I don't know. That's so dope, though. All right, guys. Bye for real this time. So until next time. Bye.